Although most often I talk about vegetable gardening, my first love are actually ornamentals. And I was delighted this week to be able to go and meet a young woman who has turned her love of gardening and of flowers into a business.
Hello, my name's Rhiannon and I'm a flower farmer.
I'm Liz Zorab and this is Byther Farm. I asked Rhiannon how she got started.
It all began with my sister's wedding, so she asked me to do wedding flowers for her, and I've always been into flowers and gardening and picking flowers, so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? It was really scary, but I loved every minute of it, and I've managed to turn my passion for gardening, wildlife and nature into a business to make a living.
And now how engrossed I get in the process of cutting flowers and arranging them. So I asked Rhiannon what that process is like for her.
I feel very zen. I find it very mindful. I'm concentrating so much on what I'm doing and on the combination of the flowers, not just in terms of colour, but in terms of shape. So like whether it's a flat shape or a spiky one or a tall one, and trying to make sure the bouquet is feeling balanced, because it's quite a creative thing to do. And then I actually went to Gardeners World Live, I think it was, with my mum, and came across a stand of all the lovely ladies from Flowers from the Farm. And then I did do a course. I went on a flower farming course over in Monmouth with the lovely Justine from Far Hill Flowers, who is also a Flowers from the Farm member. And I just remember doing the course and thinking, I can totally do this. Like, it didn't feel really big and scary, and it didn't feel out of my depths. It just felt right. It felt really right soulfully. And then I just kind of took the leap and went, I'm going to do it and see what happens. We were incredibly lucky to find this property. So me and Mum and Dad looked for a very long time to find it. But it has the most amazing infrastructure here already. So previously it used to be a nursery, and they used to do therapeutic horticulture up here. So we already have a lovely big polytunnel, and we've got 2 greenhouses, one of which now I use for all my seedlings and things like that as well. We have 3 ponds on the property, so we're not on any mains water here. So all of our water comes from a borehole for the house, and all of our water for the greenhouses and things comes from either the ponds or it comes from the buildings. So we save a lot of rainwater. So we've got a big tank up on the top, so the greenhouses and the tunnel are all totally irrigated. It's all about balance, so it's about thinking about the shape of it and how it's going to sit in a vase and whether it's all complementary, the kind of feel. So if I'm doing a birthday bouquet, it tends to be slightly like brighter colours. I do, if I'm doing a bouquet or I'm doing any funeral work, sometimes they'll request brighter flowers because it's a memorial of that person's life, but sometimes they do want something a bit more sombre, and it's quite nice to think about that person's life, because the family will tell me little things about them, like they want forget-me-nots in it, or I like to put rosemary into all of my funeral work because rosemary symbolises remembrance and things like that. So I find it very mindful, and I just go into a different place when I'm creating. They talk about flow, when you get into a state of flow when you're being creative. That's kind of where I go to. I've been inundated with florists going, can we please have your flowers? And the retail side is slowly built from there in terms of bouquets and weddings and funeral flowers as well. So yeah, it's been amazing. I've never had a business plan. It's always just gone with gut feeling and how the business feels. But then I've always had a very defined image of what I want my business to be. So one of the reasons I've been self-employed since I left college, and it's been amazing. But now I've been my own boss. That freedom is incredible. And I've always known I want a family. And I know that I want to be here for my family. I know that I don't want to take on too many weddings in a year, because I want to be able to have weekends with my family when it does happen. And I don't want the business to get so unwieldy that I can't just take a day off when I want to spend time with my current family or with my future family. So I've made the decision a long time ago that I never want to take on permanent paid staff, because doing a tax return as a self-employed business owner is already complicated enough without pensions and things like that as well, to be quite honest. Yeah, I think I might have some part-time freelance staff. So some florists do freelance work in terms of arranging, but I've had some people approach me asking to do potentially some freelance work, helping out on an odd day in terms of weeding and planting and things, which would be very helpful. I would never have been able to do this on my own. My mum and dad help out a huge amount with what I do. My grandparents come up, they're my chief potter honours. They help do all the pricking out of the seedlings as well. My sister is now helping me on the admin side of things, even though she lives over in Bristol. So she helps maintain my website and things. So it's a real family affair here as well. But yeah, I couldn't really imagine it getting any bigger than it is. I don't think bigger is necessarily better. Like, building this business through the pandemic, keeping it small has allowed me to be flexible and to adapt a lot quicker than I think some of the bigger businesses had. And yeah, having a business this big is what fits with my life and how I want my life to be.
I'm so pleased to have found another gardening friend within an hour of Byther Farm. I'm really excited to spend some more time talking with Rhiannon about setting up a cut flower business. It's something I'd really like to explore for this site.
I don't do any flowers by mail order because a lot of the flowers that I grow don't travel well out of water, and Royal Mail isn't very pleased when you include water in your deliveries. It's one of the ways that I like to keep it local. For me, this is a business that's all about being local and about locally grown and grown in a gentle way with the planet as well, and shipping flowers just doesn't quite feel right. And it makes them a bit more special, like it's something that only local people can buy. I do deliveries locally. You can come and collect from the farm if you would like to, but probably Newport is the furthest that I'm willing to go. But I have been doing a lot of drying of flowers now this year. They've become very fashionable, and again, it's another way that I'm trying to cut down any waste that I have. So if there are any flowers left in the field when I've finished cutting all of my orders for the week, I'll go out and I'll cut them to dry, which I then do as dried bouquets, which I do post because there's no water involved. It's a little bit easier, and I can wrap them really carefully, so even though they're delicate, they'll do well in the post. I do dried wreaths with like decorations of dried flowers on as well. It's all on my website, www.bluehillflora.com. So on the website there's postcodes which tells you how much the delivery is for that postcode. And I'm very aware that some of it is expensive, but that's because it is up to an hour for me to drive to do that delivery and then come back. If it is further afield and I know there's another flower farmer who's closer, I will recommend for you to go to that flower farmer instead, because it's all about trying to keep it local. At the moment, my favourite flower for drying is going to be probably the helichrysums or the straw flowers, because they come in really amazing colours. My favourite flower at the moment for working with, just in general, probably the dahlias. They're quite early this year. Normally I get the ones in the tunnel about now, but the ones outside are normally a couple of weeks later than this. But they're already in full force. So bees is something that we've thought about for quite a long time, and is something that we'd really like to do here, to have a couple of hives. But I wouldn't want too many hives, because having too many insects around and pollinating the flowers can actually be a little bit of a problem. I do grow some flowers just for the pollinators, because obviously I want to try and support them as much as I can. But we're always trying to get in there and cut the flowers before they've been pollinated, because once they're pollinated, they've done their job and they'll close up and they'll die and set seed. So for us to be able to give you the best vase life for your flowers, we need to try and beat the bees. So some days we're up incredibly early to try and get out before it gets too hot and before the bees get in there to pollinate any of the flowers. It's more than living a dream, because it's about more than that. It's about more than just me. So having this property and doing this business is about giving back as much as I can as well. So I try and do everything with a mind of leaving this little bit of land better than when I came here. And just like everything that's going on in the world at the moment is really sad and it's really stressful, and it does make me quite upset. So it's kind of my way of trying to help, I guess, by producing flowers that florists can have from me that don't have any chemicals, that haven't been grown in hothouses, that they have that option. Even if I'm only supplying them with a couple of 100 stems a week, it's still making a dent and making a positive impact on the business that they have as well. It's make it even an option, because I don't know if a lot of florists even realised it was an option. Some of my profits I always try and put back into the farm, like we put loads of bird boxes up over the winter, and we've had blue tits, and we've had 2 lots of sparrows, and we have swallows, and it's always about consciously trying to make it better. That's why it feels like it's so much more. It's not just for me, it's for my kids as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it feels bigger.
That's really nice. Really nice.
That's what drives me. That's why I'm out here at all hours of the day. Like, I'll be cutting until 9 o'clock at night because it needs to be done. I'll be weeding, and it's my downtime as well as my work. As you said, we don't really want to call it work because it doesn't feel like it. It's a way of life. It's working on my schedule. It's better for me and my body because I can get up when I need to or want to. I can have a break and go and have lunch. I can take a day off in the week if I need to. Like, being my own boss and working for myself is just so liberating, and it makes me feel healthier and happier as a human being as well.
But if a flower garden isn't your thing and you're just itching to get on with sowing some seeds for the next month, I've made lots of guide videos, and if you click on the link on the screen, it'll take you straight through to that playlist.